Not everyone will end life in comfort. Not everyone will die in a warm bed surrounded by family. Some will finish their journey in pain, forgotten by men, but remembered by God. And the question is not how will you die? The question is, how will you live until then? The Bible gives us a powerful example in the life of the Apostle Paul, a man who started as a persecutor of Christians, but ended as one of the greatest voices of faith in history. And yet, Paul did not finish his race the way most of us imagine. He was not surrounded by applause or riches or family. He finished cold, alone, chained in a Roman cell, but his faith was unshaken. This is his story, and this is the challenge for us today. Paul, once strong and fearless, was now an old man. His body was weak, his eyesight failing, his health broken from years of persecution, beatings, and shipwrecks. He had walked through cities with crowds shouting his name. He had preached in synagogues, in homes, in marketplaces, in palaces. He had planted churches across nations. But now, he sits in a Roman dungeon, the damp stone walls pressing in, the smell of rot and iron filling the air, the sound of chains echoing as he tries to write with trembling hands. And in this place, he writes his last letter. To Timothy, his beloved son in the faith, listen to his words. Do your best to come to me quickly, for Demas, in love with this present world, has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he is helpful to me in my ministry. When you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas, and my scrolls, especially the parchments. 2 Timothy 4:9-13. Do you feel the weight? The great apostle who carried the gospel across the Roman Empire, now begging for a cloak to keep warm. A man who once stood before kings, now waiting for an executioner. Abandoned by men, held by God. Paul was honest about the pain of abandonment. Paul was not afraid to write the truth, even about those close to him. He says, Demas, in love with this present world, has deserted me. 2 Timothy 4:10. Once a fellow worker, now gone, seduced by comfort and safety. Earlier, Paul had already written, You are aware that all who are in Asia turned away from me, among whom are Phygelus and Hermogenes. 2 Timothy 1:15. Men who once walked with him, preached with him, prayed with him, now ashamed of him. And when Paul finally stood before the Roman tribunal, he says, At my first defense no one came to stand by me, but all deserted me. May it not be charged against them. 2 Timothy 4:16. What grace is this? Abandoned, yet forgiving, chained, yet free, condemned by men, yet defended by God. Because Paul adds, But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed, and all the Gentiles might hear it. 2 Timothy 4:17. Men may walk away, friends may leave, but God never abandons his children. Paul knew what was coming. Rome would not let him live. The sword was waiting. His execution was only a matter of time. And yet, listen to his final words of triumph. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, and not only to me but also to all who have longed for his appearing. 2 Timothy 4:7-8. These are not the words of defeat. They are the words of victory. Not victory over Rome, but victory over sin, victory over despair, victory over fear. Paul did not fear the blade, because his eyes were fixed on the crown. Think about this. To Rome, Paul died a criminal. To his enemies, he died a failure. To many who once followed him, he died forgotten. But in heaven, his name was written in gold. 2,000 years later, we do not remember his prison cell. We do not remember the sword that cut his head. We remember his faith. We remember his letters. We remember his God. Paul's legacy was not his chains. It was not his pain. It was not his execution. Paul's legacy was the unshakable faith he carried until the end. And Paul was not alone. Every apostle except John died violently. Peter crucified upside down, Thomas pierced with spears, James struck down with the sword. Others stoned, burned, or beaten to death. Not one of them died in comfort. Not one of them ended with riches and applause, and yet we do not talk about their deaths. We talk about their lives. We talk about their faith. We talk about the message that still burns today. And listen carefully. This message is not to cause fear or insecurity about God's love. It is to remind us that even Jesus himself was not spared from suffering. Why would his disciples be? And if they were not, how could we be? The truth is this: God is writing a legacy with your life, but that legacy will depend on where your foundation is. If your foundation is money, your legacy will die with money. If your foundation is fame, your legacy will vanish when your name is forgotten. If your foundation is pleasure, your legacy will fade when pleasure is gone. But if your foundation is Christ, your legacy will echo in eternity. As long as you still breathe, live for souls. Don't waste your days chasing what will not last. Paul, in his chains, was not asking for gold. He was not asking for comfort. He was asking for the word. He was asking for the parchments. Even in prison, he wanted to keep preaching. Even on the edge of death, he still longed for the gospel. Pray that God blesses you, not so you can be proud, not so you can boast, but so others can see Christ in you. Ask for blessings to bless others. And if your heart is truly His, God will lift you higher than you deserve. So do not worry about how you will die. Worry about how you will live. Worry about fighting the good fight. Worry about finishing your race with faith, because true victory is not escaping death. True victory is keeping your eyes fixed on Jesus until the end. Paul ended his life beheaded by Rome, but he ended his race crowned by Christ. And one day, if you keep the faith, you will hear the same words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." So I ask you today, how will you end? The question is not how you will die, but how you will live. Subscribe and join the journey. Follow for more to rise again.